Okay, thank you so much. Welcome to the session of Work Package 3. Really nice to see you also live and also online. Welcome to all the guests. My name is Linda Schrapp. I'm from the University of Applied Sciences Weihenstephan-Triesdorf, and together today with my colleague Rico Hübner from the Technical University of Munich, we are going to show you the results of our Work Package 3 that was about GI governance approaches as well as the participatory approaches. So what did we did? It's quite a complex title, but what was the real output of it? So we had actually, our work package was standing on 3 legs, how to say it. So we had 3 main objectives. The first one was the setting up of the pilot regions as well as the case study areas. So the question of where and the what. And then we had the status analysis and the in-depth analysis. This is what we called it actually, because we wanted to see how our governance approaches working in the different pilot regions. So we went make it more on the general level for the pilot regions, and then we went more deep dive with the in-depth analysis by interviewing our people. And then the third one was the co-creation and co-production of knowledge. So for us it was not only important to get the information for our observers, for our stakeholders, but also to and also not only the consultation so that we get the information back, but the important was the collaboration. So really to also keep their meanings and also their experiences and build them actively into our reports and also discuss it with them. So this is maybe a good sign later for my questions. So look at this. This was actually from our guideline, stakeholder guideline, where we were focusing on this collaboration and co-creation issues. So these are the stairs when you can see from the information consultation to the collaboration, that is the highest level of the co-creation process. The L.U.I.G.I pilot regions. So we had 10 L.U.I.G.I pilot regions, and each of them had a pilot coordinator that were making a great job, also keeping the contacts and also making the interviews with all those people. So we had 10 people that were really hard working. Also for us, this was definitely a big help because of language, because of experiences, and because of different networks. So here you can see the 10 of them. We had this was on the regional level. So you can see here the metropolitan regions, and within those, however, I can also show you the regions if you already know them, but I mean it's about metropolitan cities as well as metropolitan areas. So we had the Salzburg, central area of Salzburg, we had the Gorizia region, we had South Burgenland, we had South Tyrol, and then we had the metropolitan city of Milan and the metropolitan city of Turin, the metropolitan region of Grenoble, with the Parc Naturel the Massif de Bauge, and we had the metropolitan region of Munich and the canton of Grisons. So these were on the regional level. But to look for the governance, we also need to look for the local level. So what is happening actually on the implementation level? That's why we were choosing within those pilot regions 11 case study areas. And here you can see on the slide, so the red ones were really focusing on that, where we really made the interviews with. Yeah, so these were the interviewing parts. Who was involved, who is involved actually to our analysis? We had a very broad spectrum of different stakeholders. So we didn't really wanted to have only one meaning part, but we wanted to involve as many and as colorful experiences as possible. So you can see here the government one. So for example, authorities, from public administrations, from state research institutes, but we had also farmers. Yeah, for example, we had a lady who is sheeper for the sheeping.
Herder.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, arborists and foresters also. We had also SMEs, so business partners, and for example, NGOs, associations were quite a lot. So this was actually quite most of our partners like land care associations related to agriculture, cooperatives. Then we had nature conservation, and from education and research, so from universities, from schools, museums, and also the public, because a lot of the workshops, a lot of the events were also involving the broad spectrum of public. So as you can see, the who was quite broad. What came out at the end? This was our very first work. You can at this moment download from the L.U.I.G.I homepage. The first one was a status analysis, where we wanted to show the actual situation of the GI management, so how it's working now, who are the stakeholders who are managing them and working with different instruments, what are the formal, informal planning instruments for GI management, and what kind of subsidy programs, so subsidy systems are behind the different, for example, of the key alpine green infrastructure, and the first challenges and also some solution strategies. This was the first study. We were looking in 38 good practice examples, so it was quite a lot, and in 17 case study areas. So this was the first work we did. The second one, Rico is going to talk about, and also show you more about the results, and maybe you can also lend it more to the solution strategies. So what did our stakeholders told to us as really results? And the last activity was this co-creation process. So for us it was important within the project partnership also to establish kind of this participatory approach. So a little bit to bring out the knowledge, how to make workshops interactively. We did a lot of Mentimeters and so on. So we made a guideline actually where we was trying to merge all the knowledge what we collected also in the quite challenging situation of the COVID time, so also in the online versions, and to give also some knowledge how to participate, how to make it participatory. Then we had 6 local knowledge exchange workshops. This is quite a complicated topic, but they were really successful because those were the first events where our pilot coordinators were really get into contact with our stakeholders and initiate also new ideas and also bring their experiences to L.U.I.G.I. We had the first one in Laufen. This was actually an online event at the end. We had Bolzano, that was matched with the Baumgart initiative. Then we had Turin. Yesterday you saw the photographic narrative on the posters. That was also a very successful event. Then Milano did actually three workshops in different regions. So I think one, Adam Artesana was also one of them.
One here.
One was here, Ticino Valley.
And one at the Santa Giulia
area, yeah.
South Milan.
Yeah. So we are really happy. Afterward we can maybe discuss, or you can also, what were the experiences. But we got the feedback from all our stakeholders that we could really mobilize and also talk about green infrastructure with them in those workshops. Yeah, so there is a guideline as well as the workshops. We did everything into report form. Here you can see some pictures about, some of them used for example, the design thinking, some of them were using the word cloud, and some of them were like tasting, also to involve different people, also the open public. And here we can see the photo contest and the photographic narrative from the city of Turin in the 5 lakes of Ivrea, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, so now I come to the point and where the Technical University of Munich was supporting us. This was the in-depth analysis. This is also something you can download now from the L.U.I.G.I homepage. The main questions that we had it based on the status analysis that we were collecting from 13 case study areas. How do, the resources, the actors who are acting actually in the governance systems, what are the discourses, what are the rules of the game, and also what are the different governance arrangements for green infrastructure, and also what would be possible and promising solutions for long-term actions for GI management. So this was actually the last point was for us very important, because so we could collect different views, and for this the pilot coordinators could contact 74 stakeholders who were really helping us with the they were our respondents. And this concluded in a very broad materials of 923 pages that we had to, and Rico had to analyze at the end. So it was quite a lot of work. And the really key point and a special point is that we could merge the different views of public authorities, of SMEs, of farmers, of people from the governance, and everybody was talking about the GI, and this is something it's at this moment in the Alpine space, the report is not yet in this form established. And now I would like to give the words to Rico.
Yes, thank you, Linda. My name is Rico Hübner. I'm from the Technical University of Munich, and we were a partner in the L.U.I.G.I project almost the entire time. And our main focus was governance. And of course, if you think about what's governance, you can hear it everywhere. When I started my research at the university, I was working about technical solutions and how they can be brought into practice, how farmers can be convinced to do something for the protection of the climate. I mean, this was 15 years ago. Now it's normal that we talk about it, but 15 years ago they were looking at me, what? What you're talking about? And so we did a lot of work with policy makers, with laws, the European level, the German level, the federal states level. And if you put all that together and bring in public interest groups and bring in NGOs and bring in just the general everybody, then what comes out of it can be called governance. And governance has evolved over the time in the last 15 years from thinking, okay, governance, that's the work of the government. But governance is much more than this, and it has developed a little bit away from only looking what the government is in charge of and responsible for, but also what can others contribute towards a better society. And in the field of green infrastructure, we also try to cover this range of governance, going from government-induced policy governance on the one side, where the government is actually trying to engage people, to involve people, to get people active in processes, or what we say, to enable social capital. Or you go all the spectrum through where you have, for example, systems which is more business oriented, and you have systems where you have organizations, and at the other side of the spectrum you may end up on a system that's called grassroots initiated governance. So that's really like from people on the street. So they complain about something or they want to change something, and they start to speak up. They have raise their voice and say, okay, not with us, we want it different, and self-organizations and systems where the people are in the center. And we were really lucky in the L.U.I.G.I project that from the 11 pilot regions, we could almost find, looking specifically on green infrastructure or alpine green infrastructure, we could almost find representative for each of these models. So we could even extend the models a little bit. So the idea was really to look through the interviews into the regions and ask, what can you contribute and collect this information, and then we will try to, you know, extract information, and how is it possible to transfer it into another region while considering the governance model in place. Because, you know, if you take 10 solutions from a grassroots initiative idea and try to, let's say, in the worst, try to implement it in Russia, let's say, well, how far will you get? Okay, so each model or each system has its strengths and has its weaknesses, and each solution has to be adapted to the governance model that you have, because you will not throw over the governance model overnight. Okay, so far maybe to the background. Linda already introduced, we have some slides, but you can't really see, but we will send it to you. There you have the spectrum of governance model, urban green infrastructure governance models, going from, for example, government, municipalities, over market-based to co-governance, green hubs, organization-based, and on the other side of the spectrum, grassroots initiatives. And when we did the interviews, one artifact of the interviews is from the field of networks. And what we did, we analyzed from these almost 1,000 pages how often a certain stakeholder was mentioned by another stakeholder. So what we have here, we have these 8 stakeholder types. For example, here you have the government, right? And the size of the dots, for example, here is the farmer, tells you something about how active they are in such a network in the region. And then these are maybe connected. So in one direction, this means somebody from our interview partners mentions, oh yeah, we have collaboration programs with farmers. And then, of course, when you ask the farmer, do you collaborate or do you communicate with the government, and he just didn't see the announcement, he didn't have a directional, right? So, and when you have many in one direction, these arrows become really wide, and if it's very, very little in this direction, it's small. And you do that over many in your entire network, and at the end, you can try to figure out if there are certain patterns, and these patterns we are trying to attribute to the governance models. Okay? Any questions so far? Great. So I brought to you 4 examples from such a system. We did it, of course, for all the regions. I think it's a small group you're able to see, but here you see such a network graph for a typical, rather government-led type of governance. So the Gorishka-Idria-Sergno region, and here the government was the most frequently mentioned for cooperation partner, and it has the best network. So it's somehow also a dominant partner. It's rather big. And very interesting for us are the missing links. So if you have, for example, here you have science and education, and that's mentioned by the public, but science and education does not really have many connections. So that's something you can act on. You can really go to that region and say, well, you know, you have some universities working on this, or maybe not yet working on this. Try to collaborate with the universities a little bit more to get the best out of each actor for managing, for example, urban green infrastructure. And yeah, economic partners are well networked here, so you also see some self-references. I can show you here. If the government, for example, the lower administration, consults a lot the medium administration, and they consult the top administration, then you get a lot of self-references here, because they are busy consulting each other, and it's very typical for most countries that there's a lot of consulting up and down before it goes out. And then, last but not least, In L.U.I.G.I, Trier, Cerkno region, also the public relation was quite important. The public received many mentions. An example for a market-based type of governance is here, the rural park of South Milan. It's a mix of governance, government-based and market-based, we found. The reason why it's mixed here, the farmers play a very important role. So it's a lot about the collaboration with the farmers, also a little bit with the businesses and the public. You have many visitors coming. As you can see from what we saw, unfortunately we didn't see much, but we will. You had cars where bring the public in the park. So obviously the public is not allowed to enter with their own cars. We were not allowed to enter with our own autobus. So what I'm saying is that the management of the public plays a very important role in the park, and of course the government and a lot of self-references here. Government representatives, the public land users seem especially relevant here in this network. Economic partners seem less integrated, and interestingly, what was surprising, also nature conservation. But with nature conservation here we mean really like government independent nature conservation, like activist groups and stuff, not the nature conservation department of the government, because they would obviously belong to the government. So it's more or less nature NGOs or environmental NGOs, and a lot of public relation. The third example is a green hub type of governance, which we found in Freising. Surprisingly, you have to know in Freising you have it's a small town, but you have two big universities. You have the education for all the green jobs like farmers, gardeners, landscapers. You have the administration of the forestry of entire Bavaria. You have the administration of the agriculture of entire Bavaria and all the research that goes around it. So in Freising, there's a very dense network of people. Oh yeah, I know him, I know her. We work together on this project and that project. University Landscape Association plays a central role. The universities play a role. So that's why it's very classic, let's say, for a green hub. Besides that, so it's a very diverse group of different governmental organizations and non-governmental organizations. The Land Care Association has a leading role, and the public receives many mentions. Linda will maybe later give some examples of the public events we did in Schafhof. So there are several, 200-300 people attending. 600. But maybe 300 were listening and 300 were just coming. Anyways, this is an example for the Green Hub, and good example for a grassroots initiative we could find in Mal and Finchgau. Somebody here from Mal? Okay, yeah. So it seems to be associations are more or less the rulers of the country there, or the rulers of the game. Everybody referred to them, they referred to themselves, and also a very, very strong connection with science and education. You can see the very thick arrows. So all stakeholder groups are well networked. It was, I think, the region with the most connections between each other. But there's not really a dominant partner. I mean, associations is big, science is big. That's what I said. So also the land users seem to be very integrated. It's always very good for a balance to see in such networks if the direction goes in both directions. If it's only one-sided, it becomes a little bit, it's not really a confirmed relationship.
Sorry to interrupt you. We
Sure.
have 5 minutes left.
So you changed the schedule.
Change the time.
I
Because
don't
in the
know.
first you had more.
That was the
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
so
the solutions and then
right. So of course now you can start to criticize if you want. And there's a lot to improve, of course. We tried to give boundaries, for example, for the interviews. So they should bring in somebody from each type and not only like present interviews from 5 government people and none from the public. So this was kind of a challenge. But also we wanted to qualitatively know what is on the minds of the different groups. So here you have the groups again, and there you have, for example, what are the goals that these groups follow. And you could choose, for example, resource protection could be a goal for climate, soil and water, or the preservation and continuation of the cultural heritage, or preserve some rare or old local varieties of fruit trees. So there was a huge flower pot of possible goals. And what is interesting now, I won't go into the details, but you know, some of the goals that the policy has is not the goal that a farmer has or the goal the public has. So sometimes the objectives vary very much, and this makes it difficult to communicate, but it also makes it difficult to get a political mandate for a certain goal if the goal is so different. So I think one challenge will be from the L.U.I.G.I, or one outcome, is really to look into this, to really analyze which stakeholder group has which goals. And also this goes further. It's not only about the goals, it's also about possible solutions. So each group has a different idea what works best and what we need. And in order to optimize this process, we don't have unlimited resources, we don't have unlimited time and so on, but to optimize this process, we could look into this and check who is doing what and who is demanding what. So for example here, typical solution patterns could be increasing the economic efficiency of of green infrastructure management, also of orchard meadows and so on. And then you can check who's really doing what and so on. So for example, in the next one, what are ideal promoting factors? And ideal promoting factors, one example could be we should use the potential of the region. Or another one would be we need a better planning and a better coordination. Now, when you go for the solution, we need better planning and better coordination. You can check who actually thinks that and who actually thinks this is a good solution. And for example, planning and coordination, obviously it sounds very good, but look who mentioned it. It's only 3 groups. It comes from the government, obviously it's their job. It comes from nature conservation, and it comes from association. But nobody from business or science and education or the public mentioned we need a better planning and a better coordination, right? So when I repeat myself, please correct me, but if you look through the glasses of a stakeholder group, some of the solutions that seem obvious maybe are not the ideal ones in order to target the management and the governance of such green infrastructure. So yeah, I can give more examples, but I think that's it. Concluding remarks, there's no silver bullet, let's say. There's nothing, no solution that fits all. Each governance system has something well established and working very well. It, however, is not always possible to transfer it to another region because maybe there's another setting and maybe there a grassroots system may work better. But I think what we will do in our last report is really to try to filter best solutions from each region. For example, from Salzburg, what I heard there with the fruit collection, or is it Burgenland? With the fruit collection machine. That is a business model. This is a business development, you know, and so very good solutions everywhere, and we try to filter it and bring it together in the last report. So if you have questions.
Otherwise, we can go to the question and answers round because I think we have 1 minute left.
I've stolen 5 minutes.
You sold it. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so let's go maybe through the question and answers series, because you already heard the presentation now. So the first question is, what is a governance approach among the following three terms? A, tree trunk initiative. B, grassroots initiative. Or C, bamboo sprout initiative. So the question was, what is a governance approach among the following three terms? Is it the tree trunk initiative, grassroots initiative, or bamboo sprout initiative? Second one, the government-led governance approach. So Rico showed you some different types of governance, and we are asking about the government-led governance approach. Is about A, politicians planting trees. B, projects initiated by the government and non-governmental stakeholders must not participate. Or C, initiatives and decision-making lies directly with the government. So the government-led governance approach is about A, politicians planting trees, or B, projects initiated by the government and non-governmental stakeholders must not participate, or C, initiatives and decision-making lies directly with the government. All right. Third question. Dealing with different stakeholders, what would you consider as the most successful order in stakeholder management? So think about the ladder that I was showing you today. The A is, if we go to the direction, information, empowerment, involvement. Or B, information, consultation, collaboration. Or C, involvement, information, collaboration.
Wait, could you repeat that?
Yeah, I will. Okay, so is it the right direction? Information, empowerment, involvement, which is A. Or B, information, consultation, and then collaboration. Or the C, involvement, information, collaboration. So we go from down to up. This is the
Wait,
They
one
were
last
not.
time.
They were
Shall I?
not.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
They were not here when you explained this part. They were still down there.
Yeah. So we have
Okay, sorry, yeah.
intuition.
Intuition, yeah. Okay, so in the A is like
Questions on the screen.
information, empowerment, involvement. Or the B is information, consultation, collaboration. Or the C, involvement, information, collaboration. I think you can work.
Thank
They're
you.
all the same.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.